Good morning, everybody. Today we're in Mark chapter 4, and we're beginning with verse 35. And it's a story that I'll bet you've heard before. It's one where Jesus and the disciples are out on a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and this huge storm comes up. It is so big that even the experienced fishermen, the disciples, are absolutely afraid. Mark writes that the wind and the waves are so high that they're crashing into the boat and they're filling up the boat. And this is what we read in verse 38. It says, Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" Now, this is one of those places where I think I can really relate to the disciples. How about you? Have you ever been in the middle of a storm, metaphorically speaking, where you think Jesus might be sleeping? Jesus, I have a financial storm, or Jesus, I have a marriage storm, or Jesus, I have a kid storm, or a parent storm, or a job storm, you name it. Jesus, I have a big decision to make, and I've been praying. And it seems like you're sleeping. Don't you care? Well, let's see what the rest of the story says. At verse 39, it says, "When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, 'Silence, be still.' And suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. And then he asked them, 'Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?'" Now, once again, putting myself in the disciples' position, I don't think their response was unreasonable in the least. They had probably heard about storms that had killed people before. Maybe they'd even been in one like that. But how did Jesus' disciples respond to this big miracle? Well, verse 41, the last verse of this episode, says the disciples were absolutely terrified. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "Even the wind and the waves obey him." Mark tells us that they were absolutely terrified. Terrified. Doesn't that seem like a strange reaction? Well, maybe not. The story indicates that the disciples were definitely afraid of drowning when the wind and the waves hit. But now, after Jesus quiets the wind and the waves, it seems like their fear had amped up. They're absolutely terrified. They are mega afraid. They feared a great fear, as the original language says. This is a fear that includes awe and amazement and great respect. "Who is this man?" they asked. Somehow they realized that though the storm was something big, somehow their focus had changed to someone who was even bigger. They feared a storm in their life, and this was a big what. But now they had experienced a who was even more powerful. Even the wind and the waves obeyed him. And even the worst of the whats listened to this who. I sound like Dr. Seuss right now, don't I? I'm convinced that God puts people in our life who help us see this principle in action. I have a close friend who is someone who's been on a journey with cancer for 10 years in this last episode, and he had an earlier episode in his life too. In our conversations, he has reminded me often that our fear is the fear of the unknown, not knowing the details of life that are going to come up. And that's really the cause of fear. But there is good news. We do not know the details, but we know the who does. And that's one of the great promises that we have from Jesus, that the one who does know, that Jesus can say to his closest friends, and he can say to us, he can say, "Do not be afraid, fear not." I remember my friend wrote in a little journal that he shared with me, he said, "Jesus will not let anything come upon us that his grace and strength and peace will not be able to withstand." So I want to encourage you, don't spend these years, whether you're 20 or 120, don't spend them in fear, because you know the who, the one who holds the future. Have a grace and a peace-filled day.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.